guys, welcome back to my channel. So I just finished watching both episode 4 and 5. I've got one more left before I get into season 2 of Loki. First of all, I'm not feeling great, so I didn't even know it was Thursday. Like, that's how bad it was. Don't know if I'm going to get to the first episode of season 2 of Loki today. If I don't, I will definitely try to get to it earlier tomorrow because I do want to finish the first season before I jump into season 2. I have to. So my reaction to both episodes will be on my YouTube memberships. If you are new here, you do not know what that is. It is a few special perks for members only, and I've got 2 levels of memberships over there. Level 1 is for $2.99, and you get priority replies from me, special polls, and looking into doing live streams. Level 2 is for $4.99, and you get everything the level 1 has, plus you get all of my reactions to all of the shows I watch, any movies I watch, and all of my uncut Try Not to Laughs. These were some pretty darn interesting episodes. So in episode 4, it opens up with this little girl who gets caught by the TVA. And of course, we find out that the little girl is actually Sylvie. So we find out, why they are after Sylvie is because she took Ramona's temp pad and left with it. And so ever since then, I guess she's been on the run. So then they kind of flash forward to her and Loki sitting on this moon, waiting for this big planet to crash on top of them. And they're sitting there having a moment, and they're holding hands, and they're looking, and in the midst of all of that, somehow they're tracking what they're calling a nexus event, and I guess it's them that they're tracking. And right at the last minute, they end up opening up, the little time travel doorway or whatever, so they can get out of there. And they ended up getting out of there, but they also ended up getting arrested or captured or whatever. So now they have to go and face the timekeepers. So in the midst of all of this, Ramona is talking to Mobius, and Mobius is asking questions, trying to figure stuff out. She tells Mobius that C20, which is the chick that we saw in the last episode, is dead now. But in the last episode, she was talking about how she was in a real place, that she's been there before, that she's familiar with the place. So she was already catching on that she's not really who she thinks she is. So they probably took care of her, right? So so we know also that Sylvie wasn't supposed to exist, which is why they're after her. So there are, they end up having to face the timekeepers. So when they get locked up and they're going to their cells or whatever, Loki feels like Mobius kind of stabbed him in the back. Mobius is feeling the same way. And then before Loki parts ways with him, he tells him, they're lying to you. Like, they're like, the TVA is lying to you. You're not who they say you are. So so they're both now trapped, and Loki is trapped in this area where no, I'm sorry, let me backtrack. So did he escape? Okay, so he gets locked up, and now he gets sent to this place where it's like a time loop, and this girl named Sif keeps coming in and punching him in the face and kicking him and telling him mad because he cut her hair. And so eventually he kind of slows it down. And then Mobius shows up because Mobius is now asking certain questions to Ramona. So I think Sylvie, I keep saying Sophie. Sylvie broke out, and now Mobius goes back to get Loki. So now he's starting to kind of believe what Loki said to him. Like, look, you're not who you think you are. You're just a variant. The TVA is messing around with you. So Loki told Mobius that they were all variants and that they were kidnapped. And they all have a past. So in the midst of him telling him all of this, on the outside of this holding cell is the main, I guess one of the main chicks they call B15, which is the one that initially got enchanted. So she heard the whole conversation in the hallway, and now she's got questions, and she's looking at a poster that says, "Do we have them all?" Something like that. And I'm like, oh shoot. So now she goes to find Sylvie. She finds Sylvie, and she breaks her out of there without the other guards knowing. So they end up getting to this place where it's raining somewhere. I don't know where they are, but she's asking her all these questions. And so she wants Sylvie to show her what her past looked like, and she felt it. She was happy. And she was like, well, what now? And so they're like, we got to basically take everybody down. So they go back. Now she knows the truth. C20 knew the truth, and they offed her. And so now Mobius ended up, let me see. So I'm trying to remember everything because I saw these 2 episodes back to back. So Mobius started asking Ramona questions. She thinks that they took them down and everything, but he's asking questions because he's starting to believe Loki. And Ramona is just like, why are you asking all these questions? And he's asking, well, why? How did C20 die so fast? She was just fine. And, you know, he's kind of like trying to figure things out, and I think that she's kind of catching on. I'm just sitting here looking like she knows something. She's not good at all. So she goes to put her little sword or trophy or whatever it is up on a mantle in front of her office, and he switches their temp pads. So temp pads, I don't know what they call them. So he switched them up, and he ends up going to look at the files that she has on there. So they were interviewing the girl C20, and you can see that Ramona was shutting all that down because she started to figure things out. So she saw that for herself, and then, excuse me, she went and broke Loki out. And then Ramona caught him, because when he came back with Loki, he was like, oh yeah, you know, I figured it out when I was down there that I had yours instead of mine. So she pruned him. He was gone. And in front of Loki too. So Loki was sitting there like all teary-eyed, and I was just like, but I didn't know that when you prune them, they don't necessarily die. They just go to the end of time or something like that. So anyway, now he's being walked off, and now they're starting to look for the other chick, the one that heard the conversation. So now they're looking for her because she was compromised by Sylvie, because when they went in there to go look at Sylvie, they already knew. Sylvie already told her what was up. So now they're being brought in front of the timekeepers. So that was another situation. So they're all confronting them and everything, and all of a sudden uh the chick comes in with this little remote. She loosens those collar things off of Loki and Sylvie. Now a whole fight scene breaks out. So they're all fighting, and at the end of all this fight scene, um, Sylvie ends up fighting Ramona. Loki ends up fighting all the other dudes. Sylvie beheads one of the timekeepers, but then we find out that they were just androids, so they weren't really real. So then Ramona uh gets up and she prunes Loki. So now um Sylvie was getting ready to prune her, and she was like, "No, I'm gonna keep you alive because you're gonna tell me everything I need to know." And that's kind of where episode 4 ended. So episode 5, Loki wakes up and sees different Lokis. So he sees a kid, he sees an older guy, and another guy. So they're all different Lokis. So they ended up somewhere where there's this humongous dragon. It's basically a place where all the Lokis end up when the TVA doesn't want them anymore. So he ends up finding these guys, and they're all walking just out there trying to survive, and they end up going into their little bunker. They're talking and they're exchanging stories and things like that. In the meantime, Sylvie is asking her questions to Ramona. Now, I, in the back of my head, was just like, Ramona's going to go along with it, but I have a feeling like she's going to backstab her. Like, she's really not, going to do anything. So they're asking questions, and she basically tells them when they get pruned, they're kind of transferred and they're not necessarily dead. So wherever they go, they just stop growing. They just are who they are, I guess, forever, if I understood that correctly. So then, they kind of exchange their stories. And so one of the Lokis was saying how his Nexus event was killing Thor, and another one was fighting Captain America and taking all of the um, Infinity Stones. But then that ended up being a lie anyway. So they're all doing their thing, and Loki decides to want to go and try to figure out a way out. So when he tries to leave, he sees what they call wolves, which is a whole bunch of different Loki variants, and they're not good. Um, so now at this point, Sylvie is being chased by the dragon because Sylvie gets pruned. So now she ends up there, and Mobius shows up in a car with a big old pizza on it. So now, backtrack real quick. So Ramona is trying to talk to the what's her name? B15 is what they call her. So she's not pruned, but she's locked up somewhere in a room. So she's trying to get answers from her. She's trying to figure out, what how is Sylvie moving? Like, what is it? And she basically doesn't tell her much of anything. So anyway, so they're all kind of like trying to figure out how they're going to get out of where they are, or the main Loki is trying to figure out how to get out of there. And then of course we see Sylvie, and then Mobius picks her up. So they're all kind of heading in the same direction. They just don't know it yet. Sylvie was hoping to see Loki. Loki was hoping to see her. And it's just like, you know what? These two are about to fall in love. So that was pretty interesting. So then Ramona sends Miss Minutes to go find the files. So now Loki and Sylvie, after them finding each other, just kind of sitting there having a long conversation, and they're kind of like, they're giving each other little googly eyes, and like you can tell that they like each other. He kind of, magically gives her a blanket because they're cold, and you can kind of tell with the eye contact and everything, and they're kind of letting each other know that they like each other, but not really. So they're both sitting there like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this type of thing. So anyway, so they figure out that whatever the TVA is not really what they know. It's what's behind this dragon thing. So this dragon thing is only guarding what the TV, who's really behind the TVA, and they are like trying to get over there. So in order for them to get over there, Sylvie has to enchant him, so enchant the thing. So Loki ends up wanting to stay behind, and all the other Lokis, they're like, all right, good luck. Mobius leaves with the temp pad or whatever, so now he's gone. So now it's both them against this thing. So they basically go and they end up, trying to enchant the dragon. In the meantime, the other Loki, the older one, he comes up and he kind of builds up this town of a sort. I don't know if that's what it's supposed to look like or what it was before then. And then he eventually ends up getting killed. But Loki is also given by the younger Loki this gold sword or this knife or whatever it is. So then they end up getting to a point where he was moving around with the sword trying to get the attention of the dragon. Then the dragon ends up getting close enough to where Sylvie can, enchant him, and it works. Now that there's this whole big land behind this thing that they're about to enter into. And so that's kind of where episode 5 ends. So I'm going to try to get to the last episode tonight if I can. If I can't, I'll do that tomorrow and I'll start the second season of Loki. But I cannot wait to see who is beyond that smoky dragon, who's behind it, what's going on, what happens to Ramona. I can't wait to see how this ends. I cannot wait to see how this ends. Leave your comments down below. Let me know if you enjoyed my review for episode 4 and 5 of season 1 of Loki. Give me your thoughts on what you think, what you liked about it. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe to my channel, hit like, share, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you guys can get notified whenever I pop up on your feed. I'll see you guys later. Toodles!